So, welcome everybody to our webinar. I guess it's 11:30, so let's start. Topic today is on how to get your Google Shopping ads to the next level by transforming big merchant centers into separate CSSs. This is relevant to you irrespective if you're an agency or a tool provider who wants to basically take the shopping ads of your customers to the next level, or whether you're a shop or a brand yourself and just want to get a competitive edge. Actually, this is my first webinar. I'll do my best to offer as much value as possible to you, but bear with me if anything goes sideways. David from adstrong is also here with me, and he'll take care of all your comments and questions and relay them back to me. So let's start and take a look at the agenda. First, I'll give you a reason or a couple of reasons why you should care about this content, show you some real numbers of DevShop and other brands, what a branded CSS did for them, followed by a short introduction. Then I will jump into the CSS content, which is the evolution of CSS from no CSS to your own CSS, what the stages are and what the benefits and risks of each stage are. Then I'll show you how brand or shop CSSs work, where the strong benefits come from, when to pick which CSS setup, and in the end, we should have roughly 10 minutes for Q&A. So why should you care? We set up a branded CSS for DevShop, where we took existing shopping campaigns and then moved them to the CSS from a third-party CSS to the brand DevShop CSS. In some major European markets, there was no reasonable amount of work included for DevShop. And what we measured was a CTR increase by 12%. So the shopping ads got an uplift of 12% in the CTRs. DevShop's product inventory got an additional 5% of free traffic from Google Shopping to their product inventory for free. And obviously, DevShop got millions and millions of free brand impressions from Google Shopping. So in numbers, it looks like this. We've run the analysis in Denmark, France, and Italy. In the time frame we looked at, we had 67,000 paid clicks and 3,300 free clicks. So these are free clicks coming from our unique solution called Free Clicks Booster, and this corresponds to roughly 5% of the paid traffic. In the CTR, we had a roughly 1.4% CTR in the shopping campaigns prior to when they were the third-party CSS, not in the DevShop CSS. And after switching the campaigns to the DevShop CSS, we had a roughly 12% CTR uplift to slightly below 1.6%. We've run similar tests for Intersport that you might know. There we had roughly 3% of free traffic from the Free Clicks Booster and a staggering 25% CTR uplift. And we were able to look at 4 years of campaign data. So the 25% uplift in CTR was really, really strong. As I told you, it's my first webinar. I'm just reminded that I don't show the slides. Sorry. So you only had to listen to me. So I scroll one backwards. These are the DevShop numbers here, where I'm showing the clicks and the click uplift. And now I'm talking about the CTR uplift. You've missed like 1-2 slides. It's not too bad. But sorry. So in DevShop, yeah, we had the 12% CTR uplift from 1.4% to 1.6% roughly. In Intersport, I told you it was 3% free traffic, 25% CTR uplift in a 4-year time frame that we looked at. And in Fashionet, we measured approximately 4% of free traffic and no CTR uplift since the campaigns were newly created in Fashionet's brand CSS, and they were not part of an external CSS before, so we couldn't compare any CTRs. Okay, now that I've shown you a reason why it's interesting to learn how we did it, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. Why am I qualified to talk to you about CSS? So Ingmar is my name. I'm the CEO of adstrong. From background, I'm a computer scientist who worked a couple of years for McKinsey as a strategy consultant. And since roughly 15, 16 years, I'm an internet entrepreneur. I founded 11, 12 years ago, I founded a large price comparison network. We were a pure paid player, so only Google search ads back in the days. And we had a monthly 7-digit Google ad spend. So I know about SEA, I know about how to market products on Google. And I was also personally involved in the legal process that led to this creation of the CSS program. So basically, yeah, I know the legal background of the CSS program. I know how it's interpreted, what the guidelines are, and so on by first-hand experience. And when the CSS program was launched roughly 4 or 5 years ago, I founded adstrong. And I personally set up way over 100 CSSs for shops and brands myself. adstrong, as said before, was founded roughly 4 or 5 years ago. We are one of the leading CSSs in the world with over 7,000 merchant centers in our adstrong ecosystem. We are also the leading white label CSS provider with a 3-digit amount of CSSs for shops and brands. And then in these white label CSSs, we again have a 4-digit amount of merchant centers. We have won several awards. Last year we were basically praised as a winner of the CSS Spotlight Award that was only given to 6 CSSs in the world. And this year, just 2 days ago on Wednesday, we were again announced to be a winner of this year's Google CSS Spotlight Award again. We focus on turnkey-ready solutions with great support to help our partners grow their CSS business and get most out of the Google CSS program. So our partners, our customers, they are agencies, tool providers, brands, and shops all over Europe with a focus on Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So let's jump into the topic of CSS. That's why we are here. The CSS evolution from no CSS, which is, spoiler, not a good idea to be running the setup in 2023, via conventional CSS setup, agency CSS setup, to brand shop, white label CSS. So let's look at each of these setups, except for the no CSS setup. It explains itself, right? So the conventional normal CSS setup, you just use a CSS from any third-party provider. There's dozens out or hundreds out there. adstrong is one of them, and what you get is a CPC advantage. So as you know, every merchant center in Europe uses a CSS. If you haven't picked a CSS yourself, you're using Google Shopping Europe, which is like the default fallback CSS provider for each merchant center who hasn't decided specifically to be using any CSS. And Google Shopping Europe has published several times, keeps on publishing, that they are keeping a part of each CPC. So if you're running with Google Shopping Europe, they're keeping parts of your ads budget. This part, which they keep, doesn't go to Google and doesn't participate basically in the auction for the Google Shopping ads. I've had the privilege to talk to the mastermind behind the Google CSS program. It's the leading technical engineer who was responsible in creating and setting up the CSS program. And yeah, developed it for several years. It was 12 years with Google. And I asked him how high the share is. Is it really 20%? That's what you find online. And he smiled. He said he can't answer. It's the exact percentage is basically determined algorithmically, but 20%, he said, is the right ballpark figure. So you're losing somewhere around 20% of your CPCs if you're not using a CSS. So nowadays, that's why most players are using CSS. There's still some criticizers out there, I know, and I know why, because it's difficult to measure and so on. But using a CSS today doesn't win you anything. It's more like not playing with the handicap. So nothing special. Let's not waste more time in this rudimentary setup. Next stage is using an agency CSS. So if you're an agency, you can run your own CSS for your clients, and you're really doing them something good. And if you're a shop or brand, if you're using your agency CSS instead of some anonymous CSS, you're already getting some extra benefits. First of all, if the agency is using adstrong's white label CSS solution, the shops get up to 3% additional free traffic from Google Shopping. That's basically only in our solution due to the free clicks booster. Then generally, if you're using an agency CSS, basically the CSS provider is empowered by Google. CSSs get access to extra data in the CSS Center, and if the agency wants, in the CSS Insights portal. And this data can be used basically to render better service to the merchants, to the shops, to the advertisers, which obviously a third-party CSS provider won't use this data to help you in any way. And lastly, the CSS provider gets access to the Google CSS support. And as you know, Google CSS support is completely unimportant as long as everything runs baby smooth. But if something goes wrong, it's like your lifeline. And you can make sure, if your agency is empowered to have direct access to the Google CSS support, that you can solve bugs or problems in a timely manner. I've witnessed several times that merchants and advertisers had to wait for a week, roughly, to solve some, let's call it trivial issues when using like a third-party CSS provider for whom they are obviously not top of priority. And these issues, if you have direct access to Google CSS support, can most of the times be solved within half an hour or an hour. So this is really important if things go sideways. And that's why you should prefer using your agency's CSS instead of a third-party CSS. If your agency has a CSS, great. If they don't have an agency, if they don't have a CSS, you can send them our ways. And for the agency, obviously, there are lots of benefits why running your own CSS makes sense, apart from the one that I already mentioned. You're generating leads for your agency, you're strengthening your brand, showing trust and expertise in the market that everybody can see on Google Shopping. You're creating a business model and much more. On this webinar today, I won't talk about the agency benefits. Maybe we'll run another webinar on this. We'll purely focus on the shop's benefits, right? But so that you heard of it. And then, obviously, the best setup. This is where the staggering benefits sit. It is if you put shops or brands with a significant Google Shopping ad spend into their own CSS. So first of all, the shop or brand gets millions of free brand impressions every month for free. As seen on DevShop and on Intersport, you can expect a higher CTR on your shopping campaigns. And then also, as mentioned earlier, our free clicks booster will drive up to 5% of additional free traffic from Google Shopping to your product inventory. And for agencies who we are working with, this is just from our experience with our agencies, agencies can also build a significant passive income stream by reselling the white label CSS solution to their large accounts. So let's cover some basics first before we really jump into how the setup works and where the benefits come from. And the foundation that I want to cover is, let's dissect the Google Shopping ad. So here's the Google Shopping ad. And if you look at it with the bike and the title, primarily it markets the product. You have the image, which is the main attention grabber, and then you have the title, right? Apart from the product, the second party that it markets is the CSS provider. It's like the Google blue highlighted link at the bottom of the ad. So if you look at the ad from top to bottom, you see the product, oh, awesome, the title, and then there's some gray stuff. And then you look the CSS provider in the end. That's how the story ends, right? And the shop is only shown as in gray font in the middle of the ad. So it's really like the least visible part. So you can basically remember Google Shopping ads market the product first and the CSS provider second. And this branding or this marketing, which happens there, this is what you want to capture, right? Apart from that, if you click anywhere in the Google Shopping ad, except on the text link, the Buy CSS text link, you're taken to the shop, to the product detail page. And these clicks are obviously paid clicks. You pay the CPC, as you know. And then what many people know and many people don't know, if you click on the Buy CSS text link, obviously you're not taken to the product detail page. You're taken to the CSS providers page. And these clicks are for free for the advertisers, right? And so now, how does a brand or shop CSS work? Basically, it looks like this. At the bottom left, Buy Your Shop would be the brand of whichever CSS, whichever shop or brand is using the CSS. So having your own CSS will put the name, your brand name in the Buy CSS link. And therefore, a shop or brand CSS will be much more, your brand will be much more visible at the bottom of the ad, and your brand will be shown millions of times for free. And this branding happens fully in your target audience. So whichever visitor is seeing your brand or your shopping ad has searched for a keyword where Google says that your shopping ads or your offers are relevant. So this is really your target audience. And these are then the searchers, the potential visitors, your potential customers that see your brand. And this not only means massive branding for free, it really means that your ads will stick out compared to the ones of your competitors. And this is also what then increases the ad's relevancy, because in most cases, the brand or shop name has a relevancy to the search term, right? So highlighting the brand in the Buy CSS link upgrades the whole ad by adding an additional relevancy factor. And in consequence, this is what makes the click-through rate, the CTR, increase. Let's take an example. You're looking for bike and keyword bike, and like the leading bike shop is Bike24 or Cannondale or whatever. If you see one of these brands at the bottom of the ad, immediately you have more trust in this ad. You have a stronger belief that the user or you will find what you're looking for, right? And this scales with the strengths of your brand, obviously. So if people know your brand, they have extra trust. They maybe have bought already there, have positive experiences with it. Then then they will even stronger, I would say, see or prefer your ad. And even if you don't have brand recognition yet, you'll be able to link your brand to relevant search terms to get your brand in the heads of your target audience, right? So that's really where the CTR increase comes from. And now lastly, let's talk about the extra traffic. I've mentioned it a couple of times. Some of you know where it comes from, and the others are asking themselves, like, where does it come from, right? So clicks on the buy CSS link are for free and link to the CSS, right? And that's where the magic happens. Let's take a look at here, Dev Shop, Finland example. You can see the shopping ad here on the right-hand side. Green highlighted is the buy Dev Shop link. If I click on this text link, I'm taken to Dev Shop price comparison site. That's Dev Shop CSS site. And as you can see on this side here, there's only Dev Shop's product inventory. So 100% of the free traffic, people who click on the buy CSS link, on the buy Dev Shop link, are taken to Dev Shop's product inventory. In the Dev Shop's case, this was up to 5%. How does it usually look? Yeah, I invite everybody of you to play around on Google Shopping, click on the buy CSS links of providers of the CSS you're using maybe, and then see if you find your products or the advertisers, so the original advertisers' products on the landing pages. Usually you don't find them. Sometimes you find them, especially if it's like exotic niches or exotic products you're talking about, but many times you don't even find the advertiser on the landing page. So here's an example, search term aspirin, you find a shopping ad of the shop Apotheke, right? And the CSS is at Ferens. Clicking on the buy at Ferens link takes you to this landing page. And as you can see on the left-hand side, the red highlighting the shop filter where you can see the shops that are listed here. Shop Apotheke doesn't even show up. So Shop Apotheke runs shopping ads. They take care of everything, manages it, and so on. Then they generate free traffic, which is lost to CSS, and then even strengthens the competition. And that's the case for most of the brands or shops out there. You're running shopping ads and then strengthening random players, or in the worst case, competitors. Let that sink in. So with our solution, you can claim your free traffic, and it's super simple, right? In the beginning, I said that I will now give you some advice on when to pick a white label CSS for a brand or a shop, and when is it a better setup to just be with a conventional third-party CSS or with your agency CSS if you have one. There are two questions that you should keep in mind. One is like the quantitative question, what's your monthly ad spend? Is it worth it? And then the second is more qualitative. How important is branding to you? So if your monthly ad spend is in the 5 digits, it's a no-brainer to pick your own white label CSS. The benefits are just so strong, it pays by itself, it pays for itself, super easy. If it's less than 10K, you can go for an agency CSS, or with agency CSS, I mean like the CSS that your agency might provide. Or you can also pick, if you don't have an agency, or if your agency doesn't have a CSS, you can pick a conventional CSS. Or you can ask yourself, how important is branding to me? If branding is really important and you're slightly below the 10K or a couple of €1,000 and you want to put your brand out there and want to hijack this branding and increase your CTR and get the extra traffic, you might still opt in for your own white label CSS, right? And obviously for agencies, it's always a good idea to set up your own white label CSS for your customers due to reasons where we won't dive into stronger, but agencies obviously, irrespectively of the ad spend or the budget which they manage, can always opt in for our own CSS. Always makes sense. And basically for the bigger customers, agencies should really think about taking these customers to their own branded CSS and not only taking their shopping ads to the next level, but really building up an attractive revenue stream who can easily get to the 4 or sometimes even 5 digits monthly of passive income by reselling the solution. So our solution, our white label solution, same as with our other solutions, but we are now talking about the white label CSS solution, is 100% turnkey ready. It doesn't propose work for the agency. It doesn't propose work for the shop. We've developed it in coordination with Google, so there's no risks. It's a seamless setup. There are no interruptions or downtimes for existing campaigns, for accounts, or for feeds. Basically, it's plug and play. You obviously have full control and access, since you can log into your CSS and make all the settings. And also for agencies, basically, we provide a CSS group, where then we provide sub-CSS accounts for all your customer CSSs, if there are several ones. And now on how to actually transform big merchants to CSSs, or how to become a CSS partner or a CSS provider. I mean, Google has a very long list, as you might know, of requirements that you have to basically fulfill to become a Google CSS, including having at least 50 merchants or merchant centers and running a full-fledged price comparison portal. But as said before, in our setup, in our white label CSS setup, we offer a turnkey ready solution to you so that you don't have to do anything. You just have to reach out to us. If you're a brand or shop, basically the setup is done within days. Agencies and tool providers, same, reach out to us. The setting up a CSS is the same time, right? But you can choose how you want to work with us, either like as a referrer with a kickback, where you refer your customers to us, you get a kickback, and basically we take care of everything and we have a contact to the clients. Or you can say that you want to be a reseller, and then solutions completely white label. You can resell it to your customers on your own terms with your own pricing, right? And obviously then we are only in touch with you, and then you're in touch with your client base, and you can build up a revenue stream on the side. So before jumping to Q&A, I want to stress that we are no agency, and we'll never be an agency competitor. But with over 10 years of SEA experience that everyone in the management team has, we know your challenges and therefore excel at customer support, because we are here to make sure that you will get most out of Google's CSS program. So thank you very much for your attention. Let's go to Q&A. So I don't see any questions yet in the comments. So I'll just wait for a little bit of time and see if something pops up. Hi, Harald, by the way. Nice to see you. Okay, so David tells me that we have a question about pricing. I mean, so basically, pricing is published on our website, so you can take a look at adstrong.com/pricing, where you can see the prices. We have like 3 different price tiers. One is the starter price tier, basically for smaller players who just want to try CSS, try out the setup, and it's a cheap entry pricing. And then we have a pricing tier for agencies, customized for agencies and their needs, usually have several merchant centers and so on. And then we have a pricing plan for shops and brands, which is usually like 1 merchant center or 2 and lots of countries and so on. So I think for everybody, there's a good pricing plan. And as said before, agencies then need to pick if they collaborate with us to basically get their customers, merchant centers into own CSSs. They can pick between the referrer option, where they refer the customers to us, they become adstrong customers and the agency gets a kickback, or whether they want to become resellers, where they basically get the product from us completely white label, and then they resell it on their own terms and on their own pricing. And if you jump on a call with me, I can also give you some insights and best practices on how other agencies price it. So maybe to help you find a suitable price point for your audience and for your customers.
Beatrix also has a nice question. If the CSS is set up by us.
Okay, I see, Beatrix. Does adstrong set up the CSS, or is this something we need to do ourselves? So basically, turnkey ready means we do almost everything. So we can't do it 100% because, for instance, you have to pick the name that is shown in the buy CSS link. So there's a couple of information that basically we have to gather from you in order to go through the CSS onboarding process. But I would say your time investment is probably about 10 minutes, right? So we gather information from you, everything we need to set up your CSS, to set up your white label price comparison portal. Then we set up the price comparison portal. Then we go with Google through the CSS application process, handle everything. Then once the CSS is set up, we configure it perfectly. And once everything is done, we grant you access to it. And then you have admin access and you can invite other users. And obviously we also educate you on how to use it, which in a brand or shop CSS, you don't have to really use it. You only have to add your merchant center, which is 1 or 2 or 3 merchant centers to the CSS, which is done within seconds, to be honest. And then everything works by itself. Then there was a question before.
Yes.
Regarding timeline. So timeline, I would say roughly is 5 business days. So obviously, after you sign up with adstrong and you provided the information, so if we have to wait for 2 weeks until you basically tell us like what your CSS name should be, then obviously it's delayed. But once you provided the information, usually the timing is between 3 and 6 business days, right? It's not completely under our control because we have to wait for Google. But now with way over 100 CSSs we have set up, I would say average is 1 week. Yeah.
There's another one from Joji. He's asking if there's any kind of assets that we can provide that will help them with that stuff.
Yes. Great question. So question was whether we provide some kinds of assets to you that will help you basically with this solution. So what we really, I mean, our only business is CSS, right? So we don't have any side gigs and side hustles and don't offer like 10, 20 other solutions. So everything is CSS based. And we really try to help our customers, respectively, whether they are agencies, tool providers, shops or brands, to grow with the CSS business. So obviously, especially for agencies and tool providers, we provide marketing material, which you as a shop or brand also can access. That will then help you sell or convince or pitch your agency CSS or pitch the white label CSS to your customers. Or if you're a shop and you say, okay, I'm the marketing manager, but I need to buy in from my boss or from branding or from whatever. So we provide a large variety of different marketing materials or case studies. That help you for whatever your specific situation is. So timeline. Okay. So basically, maybe I've overseen some of the questions. I hope not. If I have, just reach out to me, especially like more complex questions or more private questions. I will handle them gladly one by one. So switching back the view. Thanks for watching. It was a pleasure having you. As said before, it was my first webinar. Apart from the little mistake in the beginning, I hope everything went baby smooth. I hope you were able to get massive value out of it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the next webinar. And if you have any questions about anything you heard today, any questions around the CSS program, just send me an email or a LinkedIn message so we can jump on a call, or I can just answer you the email and discuss anything CSS related, because I can talk about this stuff all day, any day. I'm looking forward to your questions, to more private questions, to more complex questions, to feedback. I'm really open. It was a blast, and I hope you had a great time too. Bye-bye. See you next time.